This is Miles Crawford, and welcome to the TRAC Staffing Podcast. There is a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding that surrounds the staffing industry as a whole. So, we wanted to dedicate this channel to discuss all things staffing. We'll discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I hope you find the information we discuss here valuable. It's meant for you. This is Miles Crawford, New Business Development with TRAC Staffing. We're launching a new podcast, and I thought the first series of topics to cover that would probably be the most relevant for most people is the relationship between the job seeker and the staffing firm. One of the most obviously important relationships that a staffing firm can have is with the talent. It's with the labor pool, with the regional workforce. A lot of people are a little confused by how staffing firms operate, and that blame is to be laid entirely at the feet of the industry. We have not always done a great job at communicating to the general public what our services entail. And staffing companies, just to make it a bit more difficult to have this conversation, are as different as you can imagine. They are not a very homogeneous operating industry. We have probably 7 or 8 different staffing companies in the Fort Smith, Arkansas region alone. I would dare say there are noticeable differences between all of them. Some of those differences may be their onboarding processes. Some of them may be the testing that they put candidates through. Some of them may be the industries that they provide staffing placements with. Fort Smith region, obviously, very heavily manufacturing based. We also have a lot of industrial type work. The healthcare sector is very large. Transportation and trucking is very large. Believe it or not, IT is actually very well represented, and that's because most companies have 1 to 2 people on IT, so they're all over the place. And then some other companies, such as an ArcBest, we mostly think of as trucking, but they have Datatronics within and very large IT operations to sustain a lot of what they do. So we actually have a pretty robust IT sector. Healthcare, manufacturing, education is also a big one with the public school systems obviously in place here, and UA Fort Smith, Vista College, Webster University, and JBU has a campus, and the list goes on. So but anyways, I thought I would start with this topic. I had put a post on LinkedIn and Facebook asking for some feedback about some things I should talk about. Immediately, the negative side of our industry was brought to light, which is perfectly fine. If that's what we need to start with, then I would rather not gloss over some of these details just because they're not flattering. So the point of these podcasts is to provide value and actual information that will hopefully be useful to you. So this article was brought to my attention by a lady, and I thought it would be a great place to start. And we'll do the first series discussing this article right here by Mr. Sam Becker, who I do not know, but judging from the article, I did read ahead just to make sure I knew what I was in for. Judging from the article, he does not seem to be a fan of my industry. So we'll see what Sam has to say. Bear with me here as I figure out how to float on top so that you don't lose me. Okay, so we're going to start 5 things a job recruiter or staffing agencies will never tell you. As I said, Sam does not always paint this industry in a positive light. So we'll just start at the top. Working with a job recruiter or staffing agency can be helpful, albeit an interesting experience. For job seekers, recruiters and headhunters can be a very valuable tool in finding new leads and openings that would otherwise have flown under the radar. A staffing agency often works hand in hand with big employers in a given area and has the jump on positions that are up for grabs. For that reason, seeking a job recruiter to help you out can be a good idea. He starts off decently enough. Not all staffing agencies and job recruiters are created equal, though. It's a fair point, Sam. While most will and do work hard to match good workers with great companies, some are out there doing everything they can to fill positions. Sometimes that works out, and sometimes it doesn't. The truth is, there are certain things a recruiter won't tell you in hopes that you'll walk into a situation that is less than ideal. Oh, Sam, I already take issue, but we will gloss over because technically that's the introduction, and I don't want to get hung up on the introduction. We could be there for a while. And I think some of this stuff is reiterated further below as we go, so I'll try to be a bit more concise and not draw it out as much as I would like to. So we'll start here. The job recruiter, staffing agencies, and the truth. And I like how he emphasized "and the truth" as if the first two, the job recruiter and the staffing agencies, are evidently have no truth in them. It seems to be the wordplay that was just made there, so I take offense. Yes, there are things recruiters and staffing agencies won't tell you, much like how there are things that you wouldn't tell a recruiter or interviewer, but having an idea of what they're withholding can get you a step ahead. In all fairness, I feel like that is every single hiring interaction with every single company, and that is in no way unique to the staffing industry. He continues, the question is, what aren't they telling you? What should you be on the lookout for, and how can you avoid making a big career misstep? Here are 5 things to be conscious of when working with a recruiter or a staffing professional. And the pictures laced throughout this article are definitely slanted to make you feel one way about our industry, and it's not feel good. So it's very entertaining. If you're on the job hunt and are particularly desperate to get back into the working ranks, you might be willing to work for a lower salary or hourly rate. Companies and recruiters know that. We do. And it's that knowledge that can give them the upper hand in negotiations. It does. But you can use what you know or can research about similar positions and average salaries to increase your bargaining power. You should. You may receive an offer for X dollars, whereas the company next door may be willing to pay you significantly more. Just don't expect anyone to tell you that. Once again, I don't feel like this is an accusation you can lay solely at the feet of the staffing industry. That's business as usual. If you're a job seeker, it is completely on you to figure out what the market pays, what your skills demand, what sort of salary you can demand with a local employer, especially in that range. I mean, you've got Google. Do your research. You've got Yahoo, Dogpile, whatever you use. Do research. There's absolutely no excuse in this day and age to go into an interview with an employer and not have an idea of the salary that you need and that's fair for you and your family. So that's a bit of a cop-out, I think. We'll move on. The job sucks. If companies are having a hard time filling a position, there may be a very good reason. A lot of times, the job can suck, or at least not live up to the preconceived notions applicants have about it. Quite simply, you might be biting off more than you can chew. But recruiters and agencies get paid when they fill positions. They're not going to fill positions if they're honest about the jobs that may very well suck. Whew, okay. So I hear this sentiment echoed a lot. And you can see this poor sap sitting here, obviously being talked into a job that he thinks sucks, and he's helpless to do nothing but accept it, evidently. I assume that's what's going on. If companies are having a hard time filling a position, there may be a very good reason. True. A lot of times the job can suck, or at least not live up to the preconceived notions applicants have about it. I think anyone who has ever had a job can agree with that statement. Quite simply, you might be biting off more than you can chew. Once again, fairly universal, very broad strokes that we're painting with here. But recruiters and agencies get paid when they fill positions. Yes, it's called a services performed. You generally collect for that. They're not going to fill positions if they're honest about jobs that may very well suck. So the first couple of sentences there, once again, not personal attacks, then a true statement, followed by a very slanted, opinionated, derogative, pejorative statement. just kind of slips in there. They're not going to fill positions if they're honest about jobs that may very well suck. Let me dispel that, because I hear that a lot. The battle for talent, as any company in the world can tell you, is extremely competitive. And to misrepresent yourself to the labor pool and to your applicants will only hurt you in your position in that marketplace. If staffing companies are actively practicing bad faith and misleading candidates, they will not be in business in the next year. So if this is really happening, you can rest assured the devil will get their due. This is capitalism, baby. The best players win out. If there are staffing firms out there that are misrepresenting facts about jobs to fill the positions, we're going to lose the contracts because our workers are showing up to our clients unprepared, unknowledgeable, not ready to perform the work that's done, and they will likely quit, walk off the job, do a poor job, potentially get injured, or a myriad of other negative things. And if that's the business that we're in, we're not going to have contracts with companies. So that line alone is misleading, ill-informed, and if there were companies that did that, they were not very good companies, and bad companies go out of business. Part 3. Look at this guy. He is slick. Tucking a couple Benjamins in that pocket of his. They're making money off of you. Kind of. But not like you think. Sliding into the next point, recruiters and agencies get paid when they fill positions. That's how they make money. They provide a service that nets them a cut. And they often don't want applicants worrying too much about how much they're making off of them. Often there are commissions attached to their paychecks as well. And these commissions are tied to how much you're making. You'd be surprised to learn that you're making $15 an hour, while the agency is making $60,000 a year? I should have done this math beforehand. So, in this scenario, you, the worker, the victim, is making $15 an hour at 40 hours a week, $600 a week, 52 weeks a year. According to this scenario, you're making $31,200 a year, while me, big bad staffing person, is making $60,000 a year. First of all, if that were the case, I would only need to make a few placements a year, and I would have a very good life. Very good. That's $28,800 a placement, according to this math, which anybody in HR or payroll, more specifically, or a business owner, hopefully you realize this is ludicrous. That is not how this works. Anyways, and if that were the case, then once again, the market is ruthless, people. If that were going on, our services as the grossly overcosting labor source would cease to exist. Where the market can destroy and disrupt, it does. And where there is $28,800 per employee at $15 an hour to destroy or disrupt, it would. If that was even close to the math that was accurate on take home versus pay, I promise you there would be a 1800s gold rush out west to the staffing industry. Everybody would be trying to do this. I don't even really know where those numbers come from. I will do an entire video dedicated to how staffing firms bill. They don't take money from the worker, just to let you know. Not a penny from the paycheck. As a matter of fact, I believe maybe in like the 90s, staffing companies used to do that when they were still kind of coming into their own. But once again, that's a very draconian practice. They learned real quick that the workers they were trying to recruit in place would just go to somebody else who didn't charge them and just paid them. So once again, the market is brutal, and it's not going to tolerate. Workers are not going to tolerate having their paychecks garnished for working. It's ludicrous. I mean, taxes, but we're not going to talk about that here. Anyways, so I will do an entire episode, and it won't be that long. We will demystify staffing firms and billings, and that we, first of all, make very clearly we do not charge the employee, and you don't make less from working through us. If you do, chances are you're with a small business that utilizes a staffing company, and maybe in that rare instance they didn't have the budget to pay the margins for a staffing company and pay you the wage you would have made after you become a permanent employee with that company, and those are few and far between. Those are exceptions and outliers, but I could potentially see that being a case. Outside of that, let's revisit this point very quickly. Recruiters and agencies get paid when they fill positions. Sort of. We get paid for the most part, and it depends on how the contracts are structured. So if company A calls me and says, Miles, I need you to find me a rock star employee to do graphic design, I could say, sure, company A, let's talk business. What sort of arrangement is this going to be? Because once again, our industry is very diverse. This is not just cut from cloth. They're not the same. So there's direct hire, meaning I can use my personal network. I can use my time, my resources to interview, screen, background check, perform my due diligence, find candidates I think would be good fits for this position, screen them, make sure that their criteria checks out, make sure they have the KSAs, the knowledge, skills, and abilities required. If there's certifications, technical or otherwise, if there's educations or degrees that's required for this, licensing, all sorts of things. So we check into this. Then we interview them to make sure they're a good fit. And we do all the screening, background checks, etc. that we just covered. And then we would let the client choose generally. Or the client may just default to our choice. If we say, hey, I think John Doe or Jane Doe is the best fit for this, they may say, great. And on those direct hires, we generally make one fee of X amount of dollars based on the salary hired that does not come out of the salary. It is paid independent of the salary. The employee's money never gets touched. I feel like I need to reiterate that. The customer pays us for the service of finding them a quality worker for a position they have a high value in. That's it. That's how that works. That's the service we provide. Now there's others that's not direct hire. Probably more popular, temp to hire. So temp to hire arrangements, generally a 90-day period. Sometimes it's an hourly window that could be different. So instead of 90 days, it's 480 hours, 420 hours, 580 hours, 520 hours, 780 hours, across the board, depending on the terms of the contract and the purpose of the position being filled and the needs of the customer. It varies. It varies. So the amount of hours that they work, we bill based on the hour. So $15 an hour is the number here. They work 40 hours a week. We bill based on that $15 an hour to the customer. But we pay the employee. We're the employer. During that temp to hire, that 90 days or that 520 hours or that whatever period, the staffing company is the employer. We handle the payroll, the insurance. You work for us. You are our employee. So I feel like now is a very good time to also clarify, if you're going to miss work, you need to let us know. We're your employer. We put you out on site with our customer. If things do not work out with that customer, especially if it's at no fault to your own, maybe they have budget cuts, layoffs, whatever it may be, then we can place you with another customer to perform work, generally in line with your skill set. That's where you fit best. That's where we want to put you. So we bill for providing talent, and after X amount of time, we consider that direct hire fee that otherwise is paid outright has been paid over an extended period of time. It's like rent to own as opposed to purchasing outright. It's more of a cash flow arrangement than anything. And that's how we do those services. Does not come out of the employee check. We do not charge. Please understand that. Okay. Number 4, the company is in serious trouble. Number 4, the company is in serious trouble. I feel like this gentleman has had a very, very, very traumatic experience with staffing firms. Another piece of valuable information some recruiters might withhold is that a company is in its death throes. Of course, you can go find out for yourself with a little research. You can. But don't expect anyone to volunteer that information up front. Even companies in dire straits need employees, and it's hard to attract them if they know their job may disappear in a matter of months. Okay, I have never been privy to this situation in my 13 plus years in the staffing industry. I will say that I have made temporary placements where the placements were fully well aware these were temporary placements and it was to perform services up into the closing point of the business. This in and of itself is a traditional temporary staffing arrangement. It is not intended to go permanent. There are no permanent positions available. The client needs labor, obviously cannot guarantee permanent employment. It is finite in its nature. They're closing. It's going to be temporary. Which, by the way, technically all employment is temporary. Not to get too philosophical. So, I mean, if that's a valid point, that's a valid point. I don't feel like I need to speak on that too much. I am not aware of a time when people were misled, and I could see this being extremely disastrous and just unethical and so many other things if a company knowingly placed somebody on an assignment, especially if they were currently employed somewhere, and told them that, essentially, hey, this is a career move, because and sometimes these are temporary positions that, they're on assignment with the company to perform sort of the housekeeping stuff towards the end of the contracts and make sure that customer fulfillment does not suffer too much. They may pay a little bit of a premium because you have to pay a premium to get people to do short-term finite work. That's part of it. It's the cost of doing business. So I could potentially see how maybe somebody with little to no soul and just a disdain for humanity would try to sell somebody on a higher wage position, claiming to them it's permanent. But I've never heard of it. This is just worst case scenario. I'm dreaming up the fastest nightmare to justify this thought process this gentleman just put down. I've never encountered it. Like I said, companies going out of business and needing help, yes. Every employee is fully informed and made aware that this is temporary. This has no longevity, will not be permanent. You will not roll over. After this, assuming you do a good job on this assignment, we will do our best to place you in another assignment. Also, you'll get paid a premium for performing this type of work. So I've heard that case. Past that, I can't really speak to it. I'm going to do some product placement real quick. Here's the Arkansas companies. Okay. Number 5, don't take the offer. It's a free country. As mentioned, recruiters and agencies make money when they fill positions. I think, as a side note, Apple makes money when they sell computers and phones, and McDonald's makes money when they sell hamburgers and fries, and BMW makes money when they sell a car, but okay. That means the incentive is to get people to sign job offers, not steer them toward what could possibly be better opportunities. I would say BMW is interested in you buying a BMW, not a Lexus, if they think it's going to fit you better. McDonald's really isn't interested in trying to sell you some foreign cuisine or veal. That's not the markets they're in. Of course they want you to get a burger. Anyways, the incentive is to get people to sign job offers, not steer them toward what could possibly be better opportunities. And I will also say, in all seriousness, this is, I know plenty of recruiters that I've worked with over the years, myself included, who are very upfront with candidates and say, I don't think this is a good fit for you. Because once again, going back to some of my first points I made, if we are sending candidates to our clients, meaning we're sending job seekers to the employers we work for, and those job seekers are not going to be good fits, that reflects very poorly on us. And this is an open and free market. Competition is out there. The best company will rise to the top and win. We lose that contract for doing that type of work. Once again, I feel like this point needs to be reiterated. So that means that the incentive is to get people to sign job offers and not steer them toward what could possibly be better opportunities. Back to that point, plenty of recruiters and people at staffing companies will be very candid with you. And it's not their job to know the outside job market availabilities. So if they don't have anything else in their company to steer you to, a lot of times, yeah, if they have a position that they think you'd be a good fit for, of course they're incentivized to make that placement and get you on that role. But they're also incentivized to not make bad placements. Because also, if a recruiter is continuously making hand over fist bad placements, they're not a good recruiter and they will not be there long. So I'm not saying this doesn't happen, but this is certainly not the model of success in our industry. This is not something that anyone touts, or that there's like some secret smoky rooms where we have these scandalous ideas of how to make money off human labor. It's not that world. Plenty of people will advise where possible. And once again, these are not career advisors. That's not what recruiters do. They know our customers, our employers, they know the skill sets they need, and they screen and search for it. And then they make placements accordingly. A career advisor is a very, very, very different line of business. It is a career advisor's job to know you on a deep, intimate level and to know the regional job marketplace and to have an extensive network. A career advisor works directly with you to get you in a role regardless. A staffing company works with the employers we have contracts with to find talent for them, and the talent that comes to us, it's our job to make sure we put them with the candidate or the customers that we can. So it's probably not even feasible for them to take time, because they're so busy trying to fill the job orders with the contracts we do have, which should be their priority. It's the reason they have a job. So they probably aren't steering people towards better career opportunities. That they're not career advisors. That's not their role. Once again, a completely misleading sentence here that almost implies that we're not performing ethically when that's not even a responsibility. That's not to say that recruiters won't look out for you. Okay, I covered that, fair. But you shouldn't really expect anyone to tell you not to sign an offer sheet if one is presented. At what point are we all adults here? I mean, it seems like this gentleman had very bad experience, and the entire brunt and blame of this experience was some nefarious actor in the staffing industry. A lot of these scenarios are extremely exaggerated, extremely rare, extremely situations I'm unfamiliar with ever occurring. Not to say they haven't. I don't know everything. I'll be the first to admit that. But I can dare say my 13 plus years in this industry, this is not reflective of the industry I'm familiar with. But no, you shouldn't expect anyone to tell you not to sign an offer sheet if one is presented to you. That's what you're for. If it is not the right job for you, let the recruiter know. We have what is called a do not hire or a do not send list. The easiest way to get on that list, that means you are a job seeker we will not work with anymore. It is to lie, misrepresent information, and then lie even further, not show up for an assignment that you accepted. What isn't a black mark is saying that assignment's not right for me, I need to wait for another assignment I can perform. That's respectable. Do that. Good. It doesn't do anybody any favors for you to accept an assignment only not to show up. Now we are not going to be able to place you anywhere because trust is broken, and we all know how important trust is. Both ways, it's a two-way street. We need to earn your trust as well. But once you break our trust, it's gone. There are too many people in this world. There's one bridge, you burn it, it's gone. There's no way back. Some companies may put a 1-year waiting period or 6 months or 18 months or whatever it may be, but by and large, you're gone. It's much better to not sign an offer letter for a job than to sign one and then not show up for that job because you decide it's not for you. So, these are the first 5 points of staffing companies, just to get you maybe a little bit more familiar. I figured this sort of yin and yang view of, obviously, which bias direction I'm falling in. But this yin and yang view was enjoyable for me. I had fun doing it. If there's any more information that I can discuss or talk about more in depth, like I said, I know our industry has not always done the best job of communicating to the general public our value, how we operate, things of that nature. My next series that I'll do is going to be completely based on what you can expect if you want to work through a staffing company, because I know there's a lot of people who would be interested in assignments and job opportunities we have available, but they don't even know what it looks like, where to start, what that means for them, and it's just, there's a lot of uncertainty. So I don't blame people for feeling a little uncomfortable pursuing career opportunities when they don't understand the relationship between them and the staffing company, and the staffing company and the employer, the temp to hire, why do I only get paid this, who's my employer, who do I call into if I get sick, benefits, everything. So that'll be my next series. But in the meantime, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on these videos. Maybe some points I could clarify. I'd be happy to. I have a blog and an article. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I post some stuff on Facebook occasionally as well to follow with. TRACstaffing.com. I am the proprietor of the content behind the blogs and articles on there. Sometimes it's other people that I think wrote things that are worth sharing and insightful, so I'll reshare those and try to bring them to my network as well. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. I hope to do many, many more. I hope to hear feedback on what I can do better. This is my first run, so got a lot of room for improvement. That's the exciting thing. Let me know how I did, what we can do next, and I hope you keep listening. Thanks. Thank you for listening, and now it's time to get back to work.